The Market Reversal Alerts EA is an EA for the Market Reversal Alert Indicator, and it's designed to automate the entries for you for the indicator. So what we're going to look at today is ways to use the EA on your charts and all the settings for the EA, what they do, and some strategies to use with the EA that work particularly well. So what we'll do is we'll first off look at how to add the EA to the chart. So once you've purchased the EA, it will be in your navigator down in the Expert Advisor section in the market area. Okay, so the Market Reversal Alerts EA is there. All we need to do is drag that onto our chart, and you can see we've got all the settings there for the EA. Now, one thing you need to be aware of when you're putting the EA onto the chart is that you want to allow DLL imports and also have allow live trading ticked as well. So once you've done that, we can stick that basically onto the chart and then close our navigator. And you can see it starts to instantly draw in the reversal alerts and the retest of the reversal alerts onto your chart. There's a dashboard up here which gives you your drawdown figures, profit, today's profit, yesterday, current month, previous month. So if you did want to leave this running on a chart with specific settings on it, it will keep a tally of your totals. It gives you also the RSI settings from the EA. It gives you the ADR settings. And there is also a higher time frame setting which we'll go into in the indicator inputs. As you can see, the EA has taken a trade already. So as I put this onto the chart, we just got a reversal alert, and as I've got the EA set up just with default settings, it's designed to just literally take all trades, and it's set as a default of 50 pips TP and stop loss. So we'll start off by having a look at the settings of the EA. So as you can see, there's lots of settings available to you. We're going to go through them one by one. The trade comment is what will be entered into your P&L when the EA takes a trade for you. You can change this to anything you like. As default, it just says Reversal Alerts EA, and that's what will appear in the comments section of your trade report. The magic number buy and magic number sell, these need to be unique for each chart that you load the EA onto. The EA will trade on just one chart, the one that you put it onto, and on the specific time frame you load it onto as well. There is a separate magic number for buys and sells, as the EA can handle buys and sells independently of each other and manage basket trading on those, which we'll look into in a minute as well. So you need to have a separate magic number for buy and sell, and make sure this is unique for each of the charts that you add the EA onto also. Close trades on opposite signal. What this will do is it's set to default as false, but what will happen is if you set this to true, every time we get a market reversal alert, it will take that trade off and enter into the opposite direction. So as you can see here, what would have happened is that the EA would have taken a long trade on this candle here, and it would have closed that trade here as we got a reversal alert and obviously entered a sell. So it's an always in the market type setup. Obviously what it will do is it will use the filters that you set within the EA as well. So if you have the EA filtered with something like a moving average to just take long trades only, and it gets a trade in the opposite, a signal in the opposite direction, it won't take that trade short if your filters are set to take the trades just to the long side. But we'll have a look at the filters in a moment. Money management options. You can use either balance or equity as the measurement for how you're going to manage your risk. You can have different lot sizing selected, so you can either use fixed or percentage. And if using fixed lot size, you simply enter the lot size in there as decimal. If you're using a percentage balance of your risk, you enter that in there as a percentage. Bear in mind that the percentage balance of risk is calculated using a stop loss. So if you do not have a stop loss used on the EA, you set that to false. You cannot use the percentage of balance to risk because it will not have a stop loss level to calculate that percentage from. So the EA will default to something like 0.01 lots, the minimum lots it can for you. So bringing us on to the TP and stop loss management. There are 3 different TP and stop loss modes. We have fixed mode, ADR mode, and high-low mode. So fixed mode is obviously self-explanatory. When you have your TP set to fixed mode, what it will do is use the fixed TP and stop loss settings here, and this is simply a number of pips from the entry price that you want to set your TP and your stop loss. Obviously, if you're using proper risk management, you want to make sure that you have a take profit which is larger than your stop loss, so you've got a positive risk reward on your trades. You can opt at any time, obviously, to have this set to false, so you can filter out whether to use a stop loss or a TP. So if you wanted to, you could decide that you wanted to use a stop loss, but you want to let your trades run and set the TP to false. And obviously what that will do is we'll just trade with a stop loss and continue to manage the trade for you according to your rules without taking a TP. This is particularly handy for those that want to use the EA for semi-automated trading, which is how I would recommend to use it, so that you're putting it onto your charts and you're telling it to get in on set conditions that you want to use with the indicator. And then obviously you will be managing your trades manually as well. So this is a good way to do that, is to not use a TP, or if you want to basket trade, use a stop loss set to false as well. So that's your fixed mode. You also have ADR mode, which the settings are here. So for ADR, it will use the ADR figure for the particular pair that you are trading. So in this case, on the Euro New Zealand, the ADR 10 figure is 117.8. As you can see here, we can select the ADR number we want to use, which is ADR 10 in this case. And basically what the EA will do is set your stop loss at a multiplier of this number. So if we were to set this to 1, what the EA will do is it will set your stop loss at 117 pips. If we set this to 2, it will be 2 times 117 pips. And the same with the TP ADR multiplier. So what this will do is it'll set your TP and your stop loss at say 1 and 2.5, giving you a 2.5 to 1 risk reward ratio. You can also set a maximum stop loss allowed with the ADR settings, and what this will do is it will measure the stop loss for one ADR from where the current price is. If that stop loss is too high, it will not take the trade. So this is kind of a fallback. If you didn't want to take trades where the ADR was too high on a particular pair, then you can set this to say 100 pips, and it will only take trades if the ADR is under 100. So when you're using the stop loss multiplier, you need to take this into account as well. So what I'd recommend if you didn't want to use the maximum stop loss is you just set that to 999, and that will make sure that it will always get into your trades and use the stop loss multiplier that you select. The final mode we have is high-low mode. High-low mode will basically, again, take the maximum stop loss calculation into account. So it will put a stop at the most recent high before the market reversal alert is put in on the EA. So as you can see here in this case, the high before the reversal alert was put in was here. So what the EA will do is it will place the stop at that point plus a set number of pips beyond the high or the low. So in this case, it would measure from your entry to the high and then add 10 pips above there to give you some breathing room in case the market comes up and stop hunts this level and then drops again, and gives you a bit of leeway at the top and breathing room. The maximum stop loss allowed obviously kicks in as well. So again, this is if you get very big strong pushes and then big pullbacks which give you a reversal alert, and you don't want to take them if the stop loss is going to be too large, you can set this to maybe something like a quarter of ADR for that particular pair, or half of an ADR maybe, and it will make sure that it doesn't get you into trades when you have a really big strong push to the upside and pullback. With this particular setting, we have a risk reward ratio. So whatever your stop loss is, you can set the risk reward that you want to take on that trade. So we would always recommend a minimum of a 1.5 to 1 risk reward. So what it will do is it will take the measurement from your entry to the high and then multiply that by, in this case, 1.5 to give you a positive risk reward. We also have time of day filters. So you can set the EA to only trade in specific times of day. This is particularly useful if you just want to trade on particular sessions. So a lot of people like to only trade the London or the New York sessions. And what you can do is you can set this up to trade just specific time frames. And these times here, you've got an hour start and a minute start, an hour end and a minute end. These are your broker times. So whatever you can see on your chart here, in this case it's 4:05 roughly in the afternoon, that is what the inputs for the EA need to be. So looking at the market reversal alerts indicator settings. So for those of you familiar with the indicator, we have the main settings replicated in here for the indicator. So those are using wicks of the left candle, aggressive mode, number of bars for retest, and we also have the last higher time frame alert direction filter. Now what this one will do is, if on the indicator you wanted to use, for example, the 4-hour chart, the last reversal alert on the 4-hour chart for directional bias, what the indicator will do is only take trades in the direction of the last reversal alert on the 4-hour chart. So you could load the EA onto either M5 or M15 and tell it to only trade in the direction of the last alert, keeping you in line with the short-term trend. So those settings are explained in more detail on the market reversal alerts indicator. If you wanted to have a look at those, there's a video on YouTube and on the website which explain in detail those particular settings. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at the filters for the EA. So the first one we're going to look at is the RSI filter. As you can see, I've got the RSI 14 put onto the chart here. And what happens if you set the RSI filter to true is the EA will only take a reversal alert trade if the RSI was extended above the levels that you select when the high was put in before the reversal alert was given. So in this case, we've set the RSI high level to 68. And as you can see, this high here took the RSI above 68. So this would have been a valid entry. If we'd have had a reversal alert somewhere around here, for example, and the RSI was down in the middle range here around the 50% area, the EA would not have taken that trade. So the RSI filter is designed to only get you into trades once price has had a strong push in one direction. Typically after this has happened, we tend to see either a pullback or a reversal start in price. So the RSI filter is incredibly useful for making sure that you only get into trades once price has pushed very hard and is extended in one direction or the other. You can also use a higher time frame RSI filter. If you set this one to true, you can select a higher time frame to have as a filter as well. So for example, we've got it here set to the 4-hour period 14 median RSI. If we set this to true as well as this to true, what will happen is the EA will only take a trade if price has pushed hard enough on the time frame that we're trading, which is M5 in this case, to take the RSI above the levels we've selected. And on the H4 chart, price will also have to have pushed high enough that the RSI is extended above the 68 level too. So if we close this down and quickly move over to the 4-hour chart, you can see that the RSI is not extended above the 68 level, which means that on M5, the EA would not be taking this trade at the moment, because although it was extended above the 68 on our entry time frame, our higher time frame would require the RSI to be extended above that level. So that's how the higher time frame RSI filters work. And you've got two filters, so you could select to not use the current time frame and just use the higher time frame, or any combination of those two that you want to. With all of these filters, you can use any combination you like. So you could have the EA set to use RSI filter on your entry time frame, a higher time frame, and also you want price to be above a particular moving average or below a particular moving average on individual time frames as well. Okay, so that is the RSI filter settings. So next, let's have a look at the moving average settings. As you can see on the chart here, I've just plotted a 200 moving average, which is this black line here. So with the moving average filter, if you set the MA as filter to true, what will happen is the EA will only take trades if price is above or below the particular moving average. So for example, if you wanted to say to the EA, I want you to take all trades and I only want you to trade if price is above the 200 moving average, then that's all it will do. It will just take long trades, long reversal alerts above the 200. So in this case, as this is a short trade, it would not take that trade because price is above the moving average. If the moving average was above the price when the reversal alert happened, it would take the trade. So this filters out reversal alerts that are in the opposite direction to a moving average which you're using for trend direction. So a lot of people like to use the 200 moving average as a directional bias, for example, and what the EA will do is just take trades in line with the current moving average. You also have a higher time frame moving average setting as well. And this is really useful because you could say to the EA, I think that the daily trend is up in this case, for example, as price is above the 200 daily moving average. So I only want you to take long trades for me when price is above the 200. If price crosses below the 200 daily moving average, I only want you to take short trades for me. So again, this is another useful filter for people that do multiple time frame analysis. If you wanted to trade just in line with the higher time frame trend, say for example the daily, and you wanted to take alerts in line with the higher time frame trend on the hourly or on the 15-minute chart, you could ask the EA to only take trades when price is above the 200, for example. And again, you can use a combination of these. So you could use both moving average on your current time frame, which in this case is M5, and on the higher time frame, which in this case is selected as daily. And then as well as those, you could also add into the mix, I only want to take trades when the RSI is also extended. So there's lots and lots of different ways to mix and match these filters. The other filters we have available are the ADR filters. Now with ADR, what this will do is we'll only take a trade if price has hit the ADR extreme for the day. So for example, with this particular pair, the ADR is 117. So if price has moved hard today and has hit ADR, what it will do is it will then only take a trade if that condition is met. So what this is relying on is price reversing once it gets to its average daily range. So the way to use this is to set ADR to true and select your ADR number. In this case, I'm using ADR 10, which is what I found to be the most reliable. And then you put this onto your chart, and what it will do is it will automatically take a trade for you on the time frame you select, in which case I would recommend M5 or M1 for ADR reversal trading. And it will just take a trade for you automatically once the ADR level is hit. If I just quickly switch over to the Euro Swiss at the moment, you can see I've got an example of it here. So my trade entry here was there. Okay, and you can see I've got the ADR filter turned on here, so it draws in the ADR high and the ADR low for the pair. And as you can see, price opened down here, it's pushed incredibly hard all day, and as price got up to the highs, I had this set on the 1 minute chart. It took an ADR reversal trade for me when it got to ADR, and at the moment we're just sitting up there consolidating. So that's how the ADR filter works. And again, the ADR filter works in line with all the other settings, so you can set your TP and your stop loss in exactly the same way as you would with any other trade that you take, except you can tell it to just take reversal trades when price has moved incredibly strongly in one direction or the other, which would indicate that it's hit its average daily ranges. There is the dashboard settings as well. So we have the EA info dashboard settings, which basically allows you to turn on and off the dashboard display. You can also adjust this to move the dashboard around. You can change the width and the height and the text and the coloring of that as well. We have also got trailing stop and break even settings on the EA. So you can ask the EA to automatically move your stop to break even after price have moved a certain number of pips, or you can set it to use a trailing stop, in which case then it will start trailing at a specific point for you when price has got to a certain level. So for example, trailing stop in pips, if I set this to 20, what will happen is as soon as I enter that trade and price moves with me, the stop loss will start to move down. Okay. If I want to start trailing once we get into profit, I can set this to 20. And what that will do is when price has moved 20 pips in my direction, then it will put my stop loss to break even and then start trailing 20 pips behind for me. So you can use it in either way. Last of all, we're going to look at the basket trading settings. Now, this is something that I use a lot. If you're familiar with me and my indicators and the way that I trade, I am a basket trader and I trade a portfolio style. So the basket trade settings are particularly interesting if you want to get into multiple positions on a specific pair. And the way that the basket trading settings work is you can set the number of trades that you want to get into on a particular pair, and you can ask the EA to enter trades if price moves against you by a set number of pips. So for example, in this case, if we were to set the maximum buy orders and sell orders to 5 and the minimum distance between each order to 20, what would happen in this case is, as we have taken this initial trade here, if price pushes more than 20 pips against me and then gives another reversal alert, it will take a second position up to a maximum of 5 positions. The EA will continue to do that for you, building a position in the market, waiting for the market cycles and prices to push back in the opposite direction, and then it will get out of your trade. Now, with the basket settings, you can use the stop loss and TP settings, but typically what you would do when you are basket trading is you would set your TP and your stop loss to false, and you would use these settings down here to get out of your trades. So for example, here we have close all when X pips in profit. At the moment it's set to 0 as everything else is, but what this will do is it will close all of your trades when the total of all of your trades hits a specific pip figure. So if we were to take one trade here, one trade here, and one trade here, for example, when price moves back and the total of these 3 positions added together equals 25 pips, it will close all 3 positions for us, meaning that we would have 1 probably in a loss, 1 in a win, and 1 with a small win. So this is basically a way of getting into the market and scaling in gradually as price is pushing hard, and then waiting for the pullbacks or the reversals to start, which the indicator will signal and get you into, to get out a set profit figure. You can also set to close at a specific loss figure as well in pips. So if we were to set this, for example, to 50 pips, and the total of all of my positions was to be 50 pips, it would close all of those positions out for me as a loss. So you can still set a stop loss and a TP with the basket trading system, but you would typically use a combination of all of the trades that you're in and the total of them as your get out, rather than using individual TP and stop loss figures. But if you wanted to, you can also use a combination of both. So you could say, I want to have a TP and a stop loss for each of my orders, and you could set those up as fixed or whichever mode you wanted to use. And then you also want to say, get me into multiple positions within those TP and stop loss levels, but get me out if I hit specific profit targets. So you can see it's incredibly versatile for basket trading. There's lots of different ways that you can use the indicator to be configured to your liking, basically. We also have the ability to close all of the trades when a specific monetary amount is hit for your TP or stop loss. This works in exactly the same way as your pips here, but it's a monetary amount. So for example, here, if we set this to 50, it will close all of my trades out when I have £50 or $50 or whatever the base currency of your trading account is in profit. And here, if I get to £100 in loss, it will close all of my trades out at a loss. So that's the basket settings. One thing to be aware of with the basket settings, if we just reset this, if you were to, for example, use the ADR filter and set this to true, the condition here would be that price has to move a certain distance and hit the ADR level for that day, the average daily range for that day, and then it would take its first entry. If you were using a basket strategy with the ADR filter turned on, what will happen is if that trade then consolidates for an entire day and moved into the next day, price will not have hit the ADR for that next day. So with this particular condition set, the basket trading will not trigger because it is waiting to trigger an order when price has hit ADR. So if price was to push against you more than 20 pips and then give a reversal alert but not have hit the ADR level for the next day, obviously the EA would not trigger. So this is one of the reasons why I endorse keeping an eye on the EAs that you run on your charts and using this for semi-automation. So in that particular case, what you would do is if you had it set up like this, the next day you would come into your EA and you would simply turn off the ADR filter settings, leave the basket trading settings as they are, and then what the EA will do is just take every reversal alert that it gives in the particular direction that we're already in. If price is pushing up, obviously, it's going to draw in support rectangles, which will break to the downside and get us into additional positions in the direction that we're already trading. So that's a rundown of all of the settings for the EA. There's lots of different ways in which you can obviously use the EA. The way that I particularly use it is for semi-automation. So I would use the EA in conjunction with the dashboards that I already have. So for example, they've got the RSI dashboard here that you could use in coordination with the EA. So when you see that price has got extended on the 4-hourly chart, for example, you could say, right, I want to stick the EA on the euro pound pair and I want it to take trades for me when I get reversal alerts because I'm expecting some kind of pullback to start. We've got the reversal alerts dashboard here, which is obviously what the EA is replicating. So it's replicating these signals that are received on the dashboard, and that's what it's actually trading. You could use it obviously with the ADR dash as well. So you could say when price has got to ADR, I will then put the EA onto that chart and just ask it to take the next reversal alert that I get. And this way it will safeguard you if price hits ADR and then continues to push to 125, 150 or 175% of ADR strongly. It will mean that it won't get you into that trade until the first reversal alert is triggered by the EA or the indicator. Okay, so there's lots of different ways that you can use the EA for automated trading and semi-automated trading. Obviously you can put the EA into the backtester and try and find specific settings that are profitable for you, but obviously bear in mind that whatever settings you find for one particular time frame or one particular currency are not necessarily going to be working on a different time frame or a different currency. So you need to set the EA up to work optimally for each of the pairs and the time frames that you're going to be using it on. So hopefully that's been helpful. The EA is obviously available on the MQL5 marketplace. If you've got any questions, feel free to come into the Telegram group, or you can ask a question in the comments section on MQL5. And hopefully that's been informative and given you a bit more information about the EA and how the settings in the EA work.